let's talk about allergy and immune effects. So, let's go back to the use of antibiotics. One thing we do know about antibiotics is antibiotics in early life significantly increase the risk of the child becoming allergic. And that is for all types of type 1 hypersensitivity. So eczema, I'll let you read this, and as I say, if you want this information, I can get it to you. Some of it you might find interesting. Bedtime reading, it will put you to sleep in about 2 minutes. Eczema, asthma, rhinitis, all of these type 1 hypersensitivities or true allergies are significantly impacted in terms of increasing risk by use of antibiotics early in life. The more antibiotics you use in the first few years of life, the higher risk of developing allergy you have. And that's why, over the last 50 years or so, there's been a 10-fold increase in incidence of type 1 hypersensitivity, at least 10-fold. So now 20% of children have a true allergy. How many people, just think, let's take a straw poll of that. You've got kids. How many times, from a pharmacy point of view, are you prescribing an asthma pump? Or are you prescribing antihistamines for hay fever? Or are you prescribing an anti-inflammatory cream for eczema? Probably quite a lot, right? How many school kids now? In the UK, school kids have to give their pumps in to the teacher. When I was at school, okay, it's a long time ago, it's prehistoric almost, but there were no pumps. People didn't have asthma. For those who are old enough to remember that. So it's a huge problem. Almost all allergies established in the first 2 years of life. First expression is atopic eczema, followed by asthma and rhinitis, and what we call the allergic march. So the same sensitization. You become sensitized in the first couple of months of life. It expresses itself, say, to house dust mite. It expresses itself as atopic eczema in the first couple of years. Then the same sensitization can express itself and manifest itself as asthma. Remember, right, asthma you don't really tend to see until about 4 years of age. And then rhinitis comes in any time, whether it's hay fever or non-seasonal, comes in from around about 8 years of age up to maybe 15, 16 years of age. This process is what we call the atopic march or the allergic march. Same sensitization expressing itself in different clinical manifestations as the child ages. The most serious is clearly asthma, because you get in the UK, I think it's 2 or 3 people dying, 2 or 3 kids typically, dying a week from asthma. Asthma attack, was it a day? I can't remember. Okay, before we did our trial, we did a big trial. What was shown was that probiotics reduced the child risk of becoming allergic by about 20%. So then we did our trial, what we call the Swansea baby trial. And we were looking at using probiotics to prevent allergy. Okay, and what was I going to say about this? Okay, right, and it's the biggest trial that's ever been done on allergy. So 450 mother-baby pairs in this trial. Sorry, 454 mother-baby pairs in this trial. It was a huge trial. It took us 10 years to do. 10 years to complete this. It cost a ton of money. And what we did was we provided this product. We gave people, the mothers, the pregnant ladies, in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, this product. This actual product was what was given to them in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy. Lactobacillus and bifidus for pregnancy. And so Lactobacillus and bifidus for pregnancy. Okay, and we gave the babies one of these products, Lactobacillus and bifidus for breastfed and Lactobacillus and bifidus for formula-fed babies, daily for the first 6 months of life. Daily for the first 6 months of life. So, we followed up, and those were the actual products that we used. We followed up at 6 months and 2 years, and this is what we found. We published the trial. Before we actually started the trial, we talked to mums, and it's really interesting because giving any intervention to a newborn baby, think of that ethics approval, to give anything to a healthy newborn baby? So the first thing that these mothers said, so we took first-time mums and second-time mums, and we said, would you give a probiotic to your baby? And they said, we would, but we would have to be totally convinced that it was absolutely safe. Whereas, if they were taking it for themselves, they go, yeah, I'll take a probiotic. But for their baby, they need to be convinced it was safe. And this is the only trial that's been done, which has proven safety in newborn babies and in the mums. We set this up and published it. And what we did, when you do this, you measure all adverse events in the mother and in the babies. So if the mother breaks her arm during the third trimester of pregnancy, the clinician goes out and says, you've broken your arm, has this had anything to do with you taking the probiotic? And obviously it hasn't done, unless she's tripped over going to the pharmacy to buy the product. But obviously, so no effects, and what you can see here, no effects on the mothers, no effects on the infants, totally safe. And that's a really important point, but proven to be totally safe. And this is the clinical outcome. What we did with these babies, we gave them skin prick tests. So we did skin prick tests on all of these babies. And you know skin prick tests for measuring allergy, right? So we measured by skin prick test sensitization to cow's milk, egg, grass pollen, tree pollen, house dust mite, nuts and fish, all of the major allergens. Look what we found. By the time the babies were 6 months old, these are the ones not taking the probiotic, 11% of these babies were already allergic by the time they were 6 months old. Most allergy is established in the first 6 months of life. It might be lifelong, but it's established in the first 6 months of life. Look at the probiotic group, just over 3%, a massive difference. And then look at 2 years of age. Now, bear in mind, 2 years of age, when was the last time the babies took the probiotic? 6 months. So this is 18 months after the last course of probiotics. And look what we found. Nearly 20% of these babies that were not on the probiotic were already sensitized to one or more of these allergens at 2 years. Look at the probiotic group. Basically 50% reduction in risk of any type of sensitization. That's a massive effect. Think of anything. Why are doctors... let's move on a second. And this is the real outcome, the primary outcome. Atopic eczema, the first expression of allergic disease. And look what we see here. An atopic eczema is defined as being skin prick positive test alongside a co-presentation of an eczema-type rash as measured by what we call the SCORAD scale. And this is what we found. By 6 months, nearly 11% of these babies were already diagnosed with atopic eczema who weren't on the probiotic. The ones who were on the probiotic at 2 months, less than 3% diagnosed with atopic eczema. By the time we got to 2 years of age, remember, how many months is that after the last course of probiotics? 18 months after the last time they took the probiotics. At 2 years of age, the babies not on probiotics, nearly 13% of them were diagnosed with atopic eczema. And look at the probiotic group. Less than 6%, a 57% reduction in risk of atopic eczema. One other thing, I haven't told any of the other groups. If you've got atopic eczema diagnosed in a child up to 2 years of age, there's a 50 to 70% chance that child will go on to produce asthma. It's the highest risk factor for going on to produce asthma is a diagnosis of atopic eczema in the first 2 years. If you can reduce that by 60%, think of the impact that can have on asthma. This is the biggest trial that's been done. It's the most, it's got the best outcome of any trial. This is a game changer, a real game-changing trial. Okay, coughs and colds. We talked about coughs and colds earlier on, mentioned it. I think, what's probiotics got to do with coughs and colds? Well, let's look at coughs and colds. We, as adults, get between 2 and 3 episodes of coughs and colds a year. I'm not talking here about raging flu that knocks you out. I'm talking about coughs and colds, a little bit of aches and pains, but you can generally work your way through it most of the time. Kids get more episodes, 3 to 8 episodes a year. You know what they're like when they're at school, snivelling and then passing it around themselves. So they get 3 to 8 episodes a year. Symptoms are sore throat, runny or blocked nose, cough, sneezing. These are the symptoms, and it's the most common cause in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same in Ireland, of days off work for adults, absenteeism from school for kids, visits to the doctor, and also antibiotic use. Most common use or most common cause for prescription of antibiotics in the UK is still upper respiratory tract infection. You guys prescribe antibiotics or you dispense antibiotics. You probably see exactly the same. A lot of it is for upper respiratory tract infection, right? Yeah? Even though it doesn't do any good 90% of the time. Okay. So, we talked earlier on about vitamin C. So somebody comes in and goes, what can I do with getting coughs and colds? You go vitamin C or echinacea or zinc. This is again what we call a meta-analysis. They've got all the trials, they group them together and they look at how effective vitamin C is. So this meta-analysis found that vitamin C at doses above 200 milligrams a day reduced the duration of coughs and colds in adults by 8%. Okay? Reduced duration by 8% works. 8%. And if you go to kids, reduced duration of coughs and colds in kids by 14%. And it raises to 18% if you take 1 to 2 grams a day. That's quite a lot for a kid, take 1 to 2 grams a day. But also, it works pretty well. Look what happened when they did a meta-analysis on probiotics. 2014, this analysis of 20 trials in adults and in kids concluded that probiotics reduce duration of cough and cold symptoms by 30%. Zinc had no effect at all. 30%. This is before we published our trial. So let's look at our trial we did. We did this in Bratislava, strangely enough. What we did here was we looked at 57 kids aged between 4 and 6 years of age, and we gave these kids, or half of them took nothing, but we gave the ones who were on the product one of these a day, daily, through the autumn and winter. And this is what we found. We published this. What we found was that, look at this, the total number of days with coughs and colds was reduced by 51%. The number of times in the 6 months where they had symptoms of coughs and colds was reduced by 30%. And this was really interesting. And we got a lot of media coverage from this, that we reduced absenteeism from school in the kids by 30%. Now you can imagine on a radio show, you hear somebody going, oh, upper respiratory tract infection symptoms are reduced by 50%, blah, blah. Mums don't really listen to that. But when you have somebody saying, by taking this, you reduce the absenteeism from school by 30%, mums all of a sudden think, oh, well, that's really interesting. Because when kids are off school, mum has to be off school, or dad's off school, or granny's off work, what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's look at some of that in terms of... so this is the total number of days of upper respiratory tract symptoms here. Obviously the probiotics are in green, probiotic group. You can see consistently a reduction in all of the symptomology to this point here where you've got a 50% reduction overall. This is the frequency. How many times in the 6 months did they have any of these symptoms? Reduced by 33%. Absenteeism from preschool here, reduced by 30%. Absenteeism due to upper respiratory tract infection by 50%, meaning that the reason for most kids being off school is upper respiratory tract infection. This is interesting. Reduction in medication use was reduced by 50% across the board. So cough, medicine, nasal sprays, painkillers, reduced by 50%. And this was interesting. Number of visits to the doctor reduced by 50%. And finally, reduced antibiotic use by 40%. This So people sometimes say to me, should we be taking probiotics daily? And for years I was saying, well, yeah, I mean, there's reasons why you should, there's reasons why. But now, I think we're at the point where there's so much information about probiotics being the best nutritional factor that you can take, either from diet or from a supplementation use, to boost your immune system, that now the use of probiotics daily, I think there's real justification for that, particularly, I'd say, in kids, particularly during the autumn and winter.